Hello, so we've opened Microsoft Excel, and from here we can see all of the different template options that we have. These are good if you are looking to get started with a specific project, but not exactly sure where to start, or you'd like to take advantage of some of the pre-made design elements. Today we are going to get started with a blank workbook. And within this workbook, we are going to be organizing some information for the Smart Cookie Bakery Company. To do so, we're first going to list some of their top selling cookies. And to do so, we will begin with cell A1. To make sure that everyone can see very well, we're going to increase the zoom. If at any point you would like to change your view, you can increase zoom in the bottom right-hand corner over here. You'll see by default you're at 100%. I'm just going to click a few times until I think we're at a good size. So I'm sticking with 150% right now. You can also click on that and choose a preset or custom. From A1, I'm going to write in oatmeal. Once I finish typing in oatmeal, I'll press enter on my keyboard and move one line down. Next is chocolate chip. You'll see it looks like the word chip is nicely settled into cell B2. However, if we select A2, you'll see that both words, chocolate and chip, are in the same cell. We'll address widening this so it looks correct in a moment. Excel, if a word or phrase takes up more space than the cell it's in, will allow it to stretch out until something else comes in there and needs to block that. All right. Third is sugar. Fourth, ginger snap, followed by snickerdoodle. All right, to widen this cell, I'm going to click between A and B with a double click, 1, 2, and you'll see that it widens it nicely to fit perfectly our largest words, in this case, chocolate chip and snickerdoodle. If you needed a more specific size, you can also click, hold, and drag to do this manually. All right, so while we know that we've listed the top 5 cookie types, this information is not clearly labeled for someone else. So we're going to create our spreadsheet by adding in a new row 1. To do that, I'm going to click any cell in row 1. I'll use A1. And this allows me to go to the Home tab, Cells group, Insert tool. From here, we're able to choose Insert Sheet Row. This will push all the information down and add an entirely new row. And to help with clarification, we're going to name our new A1 cookies. Next, we're going to change this list so that it's alphabetical order. Instead of having to retype or cut and paste, we're going to use the sort and filter tool. To do that, again, I'm going to click anywhere into column A, and then still in the Home tab, Editing Group, I'm going to choose Sort and Filter. It's this A to Z icon. And while we are sorting A to Z, it's important that the word cookies does not get mixed in, or chocolate chip will be placed in the labels. So we're going to do a custom sort where we can tell Excel that our data has headers. This will make sure that our header, in this case cookies, doesn't move. From there, anything in the cookies column, we're going to leave in the order A to Z. We'll press OK, and you'll see everything is resorted. If you notice that anything is out of order, a common issue may be if there was an extra space. So for example, I've purposely added a space to that O. If I once again sort, oatmeal will come ahead because Excel will sort by empty spaces, numbers, and then alphabetically. To undo that example, I'm going to press the backspace or the undo arrow. And from here, we've now got our cookie list and we can begin to add in some information. So our table today is intended to check if we were to create 4 variety boxes of cookies, including a combination of all of these different top selling cookies, would the amounts proposed all A, equal the same 1 dozen, and B, have on average the same amount of cookies across all options. Meaning, if I was to buy all 4 boxes, I would end up with a somewhat equal amount of all of the cookies instead of all chocolate chip and 1 sugar, so forth and so on. Now, to do so, we're going to create columns for 4 boxes. Instead of retyping box 2, 3, and 4, I'm going to use the fill handle. So as you can see, this is my active cell, meaning it's the one I've clicked on. You can also see up here, this is going to let me know where I am. And from here, this little tiny square at the very bottom right-hand corner changes my cursor from the 4-way arrow to the fill handle. From here, I'm going to click, hold, and drag. Excel will pick up on the pattern, a word, a number, a word, the next consecutive number, so on, so forth. Saves us having to type if we needed to have a much longer list. All right, now we're going to list in the number of cookies proposed for each box. You can use your Enter key, your Tab key, or your arrow keys to move through here. When typing in numbers, you'll notice by default they all end up on the right side of the cell, whereas text automatically ends up on the left. If you'd like to change your formatting at all, you can do so in the alignment group. So for example, if I wanted all of my numbers, so I'm highlighting the range B2 to E6 to be centered, I can do so over here. All right, so now that we have our totals, we can begin to perform some calculations. In cell A7, I'm going to write in totals. And here we will use the AutoSum tool to add up the total number of cookies in each individual box. This is in the Home tab, Editing Group, AutoSum. You can click directly on here or using the small arrow pointing down, click the drop down. And from here, you'll see a few different common functions as well as an option for more. We are going to go ahead and select Sum. You'll see that Excel looks for any numbers that are adjacent to the cell we're working with. In this case, it's got our function equals sum, meaning add up, and then in the parentheses, the range. Anytime we write a range, it is the first cell, colon, last cell. This is correct. If Excel ever grabs the wrong cells, you can certainly go ahead and adjust yourself. To lock in the formula, I'm going to press the Enter key. And now that we've done this, we can use the fill tool once again, just like we did up here, to copy the same formula. Now we'll see all of these list 12, which suggests that we have good numbers for each individual cookie. They're all adding up to the same amount. To get a better understanding of what's going on, I'm going to point us to the formula bar. B7 is adding up the cells above. If we move to C7, you'll see the same thing. This is a relative reference. It is what Excel does by default. It's going to take the same formula and adjust it to line up with the cells that you are closest to. Next, in F1, we're going to list average because we would like to see, on average, if I was to buy any of these boxes, how many of each type of cookie would I receive? So in cell F2, I'm going to go back to that auto sum tool, but make sure to select the drop down and choose the second option, average. Here, once again, Excel is looking for a range of numbers that are close to the actual box that we are, or cell that we are working with. In this case, it's identified B2 to E2, which is correct. And I'm just going to go ahead and say enter. Again, using the fill handle, we'll drag down. Now we hope, of course, that no one is receiving a quarter of a cookie, so we're going to round all of these numbers. To adjust, there are a few ways we can do this. The simplest in this case, because we have no more than 2 decimal spaces, is in the number group, again in the Home tab. From here, we're going to select the decreased decimal tool. In this case, we're going to double click for decreased decimals, 1 click, 2 clicks. Now we've got on average, which is pretty good. Basically, you're always getting either 2 or 3 of one of the cookies, and they all add up to 12. Now that we have this information and everything seems like what we were hoping for, we can start to change some of the formatting. First, I'd like to add kind of a decorative header row. So I'm going to once again select a cell in row 1, and we're again going to insert a row. Home tab, cells group, insert sheet row. You'll see when we do this, everything moves down one, which is exactly what we wanted. I'm going to use my select cursor, which is this white plus sign, to click, hold, and drag from A1 to F1. And in the alignment group, select the merge and center tool. This will turn all 6 of these individual cells into one larger one. Here, we can go ahead and type in Smart Cookie Bakery. And I'm just going to press enter to let Excel know I'm finished typing. I do need to once again select the cell so that I can begin making some formatting changes. One, since this is sort of our header section, I'd like to make the font something a little different. We can pretend it's the logo for our Smart Cookie Bakery. Maybe I'll use this one. I'm going to change the font size so it's a bit more noticeable. You'll see you can change font size through this drop-down by typing in a number or using these up and down size tools. Lastly, over here, I'm going to apply a background color and a font color. Background color is through this paint bucket tool. By default, that is going to be a bright yellow, but if I'd like something different, I can click the drop down and choose from my color palette. If you don't see a color you'd like, you can choose more colors and get an even larger palette. But I'll use something from here today. So I've got this background color, same idea here for the font color. Now I'm going to highlight my labels from row 2. To do so, I'm also going to center. This is the alignment tool over here, and I'll make these bold to stand out a little bit. I think I'll leave the font the way it is, but I do want to change the color so it's a bit complementary to the label above. In this case, I'll use the same background color, but this time as the font. You'll notice that both of these have the same color palettes, making it easy to do that. And then I'll take this green as the background. And we left out when we sorted our numbers, the average and total from being centered. Now, even though these are already centered, I can still include them. We've got all of our nice labels in row 2. Unfortunately, though, totals has been left out. Instead of having to redo, making it bold, changing the font color and the background color, I can select a cell that has the formatting I'd like, and then using the Format Painter tool, click once, and now you'll see that my select cursor has this little paintbrush icon with it, and we're going to paint the formatting. If you click this once, you have one time to use it. If you need it longer, you can do a double click and use it until you sort of hang it back up. All right, so now that I have this looking so nice, I can start to make some changes so that it's ready for printing. To make sure that this looks just as great printed as it does on here, which to show you what it would look like if we were to print just now, this is all the correct information. We can see everything on one page, but it's rather small, and we could certainly make some improvements. So I'm going to go back here, and under Page Layout, begin making some changes. We can work from tools over here, or if you move to the right of where it says Page Setup, select the dialog box. That's the small square, and this gives us access to all of the same tools that we find within the ribbon, but puts them in a more unified place, making it just a bit easier to move through. First, because our table is landscape, I would like to change my printout to landscape. I'd also like to increase the size so that it fits nicely. I'm going to try 150% and see how that looks. Next, in the margins section, I don't feel I need to change the width of the margins, but I would like to make sure that my chart or table is nicely placed in the middle. To do so, I'm going to click on horizontally, notice my preview centers, and vertically. And this way our table will fit nicely in the center of the page. In footer section, we're going to use a custom header. And from here in the left, I'll put my name. In the center, I think I'll put Excel class to remember where I made this. And then on the right side, I'm going to go ahead with this tool. It looks like a little calendar with the number 7. This allows me to insert the date. It will become the date in just a moment. Press OK, and you can see the date up here. Next, under footer, just to be sure we know exactly how many pages we have, I'm going to choose page 1 of question mark. This way, it'll look at the document, determine how many pages, and update each one. Lastly, where it says sheet, I'm going to tell it to add in the grid lines. That's those light gray lines that make it a bit easier for our eyes to move along. All right, now that everything's ready, I'm going to say print preview. And I think this looks much better than what we started with. And from this point, I can go ahead and click print.